were talking out there when we knew people were watching the end of the film, and you were talking about the last sort of section of the film, which was the only part, the last day of shooting, which was...
It was a hard.
You're still bitter about.
I'm a little tired. I'm still tired. It was a 22-hour shoot, and it was a very long shoot. It was a good 5.5 month shoot in the winter, one of the coldest winters that we'd ever had in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh, if you know, is really it's cold in Pittsburgh. Even the stage where we were shooting in wasn't a real stage. It was a Westinghouse factory that used to house 35,000 people. So it was impossible to keep it warm. It was a very difficult shoot. And at 22 hours, people start making mistakes. And it was supposed to be a regular 12-hour day. In fact, the band for the wrap party was sitting there the whole time waiting. And they went to sleep. There was a trailer. They all went to sleep in a trailer. When we did wrap, it was 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, even though we were supposed to wrap the day before. So it was tough. And every time that I'd come through one of those doors, the last shot is me coming through the doors with the gun, kind of bursting through the doors, and then I look around, and there's another door, and I burst through that door, and then there's another door. And it's all in one continuous shot, but everybody was so tired they just kept forgetting to close the doors. So I'd come through the first door and I'd be like, "Oh, the door's open again." And I have to go back out again. It's awful.
And they were all off to do...
They were off to go to Bimini, which is in the Bahamas, which is a fabulous location I wasn't invited to. Of course, they only had one sunset shot to do in Bimini, but they had to bring the entire crew and,
But not you.
And not me, and load all the cargo bins with cameras and lights and all this kind of stuff. And many of the crew members, lots of the crew members come off of that, Jonathan Demme himself comes down the staircase and puts his arm around a lady and walks down the path, and that's it, just one shot. So everybody's dying to get on the plane to Bimini, and that was why we had to do the 22-hour day, because they didn't want to miss miss their shot at the plane or something.
You mentioned Jonathan being in that shot. That was quite a regular thing where it would be... Everyone
in the crew was always in every shot. And sometimes
Ted plays an FBI agent, does he not, at one point?
Ted Demme?
Yeah.
He might. Chris Isaak is in there. Oh, yeah, Ted Demme is. Yeah, he did come. That's right. Ted Demme's in there. Chris Isaak came one day to play one of the SWAT guys. Did you see him? Right? You saw him? Yeah, it was funny because he had to have his hat like just a little bit like that. He was like, can I imagine? Like one little curl is... different people, his kids, the nanny, the friends, somebody he met at the gas station. It was
your publicist.
Yeah, every day it would be somebody. I'd be in a scene doing something, and my assistant would be behind me, like, "What are you doing here?" She's like, "They made me. I can't."
Do you think all the way along, since maybe not from the age of 3, but along the way, you've been kind of just collecting things to that point where you decided to direct and decided to make and tell those stories from a different way?
It's a great film school, being able to be on movie sets, and it's a gift to be able to be in the position where you understand why a scene works and why it doesn't. A lot of people understand why they can read books about editing or they can work on movie sets and know how the lights work, but it's very difficult to understand in a moment why a scene works and why it doesn't. It's just an intangible skill, and there are very few people that get to see that close up. Actors do, and sometimes the camera operator does. So it's a good jumping off thing to get to directing, as long as you're paying attention. A lot of actors aren't interested. I think a lot of actors aren't interested in becoming directors, but I was from a young age.
Is it a different feeling from being on set first day as an actor, as a director?
You mean the first day?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. It is. Well, they're incomparable tasks. I mean, being a director means that you are responsible for every single thing that the movie is. So you're responsible for every color, every sound, every decision. There isn't any decision that isn't yours from the beginning. Meaning, whether once the film is launched, so from casting all the way till the final prints. So it's a pretty stressful job, and you have to have an opinion about everything, basically.
What are your favourite processes within all that? As you say, you're the boss of everything, but what are the favourite parts of it that you relish the most?
Gosh, I mean,
It's all
every
part of
part
the
of it is so
storytelling.
important. Every part is part of the storytelling, and there isn't really any detail that I am not involved in. The one part that I think is always the most satisfying is when you finally put on the score. There's something about the way music finally sews up everything and makes everything seamless. So it always feels like it's in pieces until you get the music onto the movie, and then suddenly it becomes its own organism, and it allows an audience member to be in the audience and not realize where they are.
What point do you bring on the composer when you're making a film?
I've learned a lot of lessons about that. The first movie I made, or the first movie I directed, I didn't have a composer until late. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted, and then I realized I wanted jazz, and it was a jazz score, and that was great. So I like this idea of bringing someone on late, but I got pressure on two of my movies. I got pressure to bring a composer on early, and what ended up happening is I had to fire them, which is awful. Not because of any fault of theirs, but because you do not know what your film is until your film is finished. You just can't possibly know. The process of learning your movie changes just like an organism does. It changes over time. It walks and talks a different way. And you don't 100% understand what kind of music is right. So now I've learned that I wait quite a while to bring the composer on.
I think some people in the audience might have seen Mindhunter, which is
I can't wait to see that.
Awesome. But from seeing Silence of the Lambs again, you go, I wonder where the idea for that came from.
But those characters are the real characters of John Douglas, who was the profile that Crawford is based on. All of those characters are the real characters of Mindhunter.
We've got some questions.
Oh, sure.
If you wouldn't mind answering real
Can't
questions from real people.
Okay.
This is from, I wish people would put their actual name instead of like silly
Twitter accounts?
90 Bro.
Okay.
Did you find it to be a natural progression from acting to directing?
I do think it's a natural progression. When I was 6, I mean, I'd worked as an actor. When I was 6, I did a television show, and one day I came on the television show, and the guy who had been playing the dad was now also the director. And I was just flabbergasted. I couldn't believe that they would let an actor be a director. And I just kept watching him all day. I was so in awe, and I said, someday that's what I want to do. And I feel like I knew that from an early age. I didn't think that was possible. I never saw another woman director, and I didn't know that there would ever be an opportunity for women directors. So what I was told was, you have to write in order to direct. And so that's really was my focus was on writing. And I wrote all during college, and was with the idea that eventually I would direct those movies. And then I didn't have to write, because I was able to get scripts from them.
Is that the kind of the dream, for it to be the full package in terms of you talking about being the boss of it all, and you're in charge of every part, and then
not the writing. I found that, for me anyway, I find I'm not a good enough writer for myself. I don't approve of my writing, so I like better writers than me. And
hard on yourself.
I really love I love working with a writer. I really like that process, that back and forth process, and the way my mind helps their mind. So I like my more editorial, more critical, more intellectual mind, and how that kind of combines with a writer's more creative side.
Okay, this one's from Zed. Could be a real name. Do you have a criteria for scripts that you read?
Well, I am really picky, and it doesn't mean the scripts that I say no to or that I don't take on. It's not because they're not good, and very often they're wonderful and mind-blowing, and they go on and they're phenomenally successful. I have to be moved personally, and I have to have some kind of personal connection. It doesn't mean that I can't make a science fiction film about Martians, but there has to be some psychological question that I'm working out. And that's as true with acting as it is directing, although quite different. So that's a really small needle in the haystack. And I wish, I sometimes feel very bad that I don't work more. It has to be meaningful to me. And otherwise, I would rather do other things. I would rather travel and learn things. And ski, yes.
I love that. I listened to a great podcast that you were on.
Oh, yeah?
Where I can't remember what it was that you compared to skiing, where you were like, you know, the great thing about skiing is if you don't pay attention, you're just going to die.
That's right.
It's just gonna...
And that's why it's so relaxing.
That's what, yeah.
Because you can't think about taxes or Trump or, you know, anything. You can't, because you will die and hit a tree. So there's a real relaxation for me with focus. That's always been my path, even as a student. I'm a very mono-focused person, and that's the part that I enjoy. I enjoy like doing that for 8 hours. I don't want to take in 20 other things at the same time.
This is from Evil Erica.
Oh.
Not too evil, please. As someone who's grown up in the industry, what are the difficulties you've experienced in getting jobs? How has it differed through decades?
I don't have a lot of experience about difficulty getting jobs, interestingly. I guess because my identity was not so much about how much I worked. As a director, you know, the real frustration has been trying to get movies off the ground and trying to get them right. I've always been able to find funding for movies, but I haven't been able to get the scripts to the level that I feel like they're ready to go. So that's a different song than you'll hear from most people. Most people will say it's the hardest thing is getting the money. Mm-hmm. I'm really discerning, or I maybe don't trust my fabulous creative abilities enough to be able to navigate a bad screenplay. So I really have to get the screenplay right, and that has been the greatest challenge for me.